My name's Todd Greene. I am the inventor of HeadBlade. And I'd like to start just by applauding Ian for what he's done with his hair clinic, because it's an amazing alternative. As a person who, I started shaving my head 22 years ago. So at the age of 22, when I started losing my hair, it was a huge emotional thing. And really at the time, the alternatives were transplant, toupee, minoxidil, Rogaine, and there was so much pressure of, you need to have a full head of hair, which 22 years ago, there was so much pressure, and I'm actually very thankful that I didn't succumb to that. And what it took for me to shave my head is my hair kept getting thinner and thinner. I started losing hair on top. I loved getting my hair cut. Would love to go to the beautician and get my hair done. I remember once, well, the first time I was in a restroom at a nice restaurant, and they had the halogen lights, and I went to look in the mirror, and the light just shone on my head, and you could see the top of my head. It looked like, maybe a couple trees in a field, and I still had hair on the side, and it was so sad, because I was 20, 21 years old, and all of a sudden I thought, what am I going to do the rest of my life? What am I going to do about my hair situation? And I remember going to talk to my beautician and went to get my hair cut, and she said, I'm not going to cut it. It's just starting to grow in and starting to look better. And what it took for me was when I moved from Philadelphia, where I was working at a college, I moved out to Seattle, and it was 1992, and I decided to shave my head. And it took so much, for me, courage to shave, because not a lot of guys were shaving their head. And I figured when I moved to Seattle, nobody knew what I looked like with any hair. So they couldn't say, oh, you look so much better with hair. And I shaved my head, and I just kept that look. And went through all the kind of stereotypes, because back then, not a lot of guys were shaving their head. And that's, 10 years later, or 8 years later, what kind of started my venture into the shaved head world, because I had an idea of how to shave your head, how to make your, how to find the easier, more efficient way to shave your head. And I created HeadBlade. So in 1997, I came up with this idea of this little razor to shave your head. I came out with it in 1999, and here we are 13 years later. The HeadBlade's in the Museum of Modern Art in New York. Time magazine will call it one of the top 10 designs in the world. So in the last 12 years, I have seen the acceptance of head shaving going from very low in 1999 to now. So many guys shave their heads, and they do it for performance, they do it for all these different reasons, but it's so widely accepted. And I'll just give you a quick little tutorial on how the HeadBlade works. There's a little razor right here, fits on your finger. The whole thing about shaving your head is the razor. Conventional razor, the handle works against you, so you can't shave by feel. You're shaving all these different areas, you're using your dominant hand, and you're not really going to trust the non-dominant hand. So you would end up shaving your head with this hand and then trying to touch it up with this hand. And then if you want to look in a mirror, obviously you'd have to look in a mirror in front of you and a mirror behind you. Everything's backwards. The whole thing about HeadBlade is it fits on your finger, and you just shave like this. Uses regular blades, and you can use either hand. And I shave in the shower, I don't look in a mirror, and it's just the easiest way to shave. So we sell this in many, many stores in the US. We sell it all over the world. But what Ian's thing and his hair clinic has done is make it so much easier for guys these days who are losing their hair, because they, for the alternatives. They're losing their hair, they don't know what to do. Whereas before it was get a transplant, use Rogaine, get a toupee. That's kind of like your father's generation. That's 30 years ago. Now the shaved head is very, very accepted, mainstream. People love the look. So if you're losing your hair, don't look at those other alternatives. What you want to do is you want to shave your head. And for a lot of guys who shave their head, they still don't want to have that hairline. I mean, I've been doing HeadBlade for 12 years, and I still have guys that email me and say, hey, I started shaving my head. How do I get rid of the hairline? Because I still have a dark band around my head, and on top it's light. And before I used to recommend them to use tanners or go to a tanning salon, but for some guys with thick hair, you're always going to see that line. So his hair clinic, that treatment, that process, really gets away from that, and obviously allows you to have what appears to be a full head of hair if you decided not to shave. So it gives a lot of guys who are on the fence of whether I should shave my head or not the confidence to shave their head, and then the process allows it to look like they are totally shaving by choice, because there's a huge difference in terms of the word bald. Bald is a very passive thing. Something is, when you start balding, you're always going to be balding until you have one hair left on your head. You know, Charlie Brown is balding. Charlie Brown shaves that one hair, he's shaved. And for a guy who's going through hair loss, there's nothing as confidence building or as inspiring or as life changing. And I'm telling you, from a guy that shaved his head 22 years ago, it changes your outlook. You feel so much better when you shaved your head. So for many guys who are at that point of, crossroads, do I want to shave my head? Do I want to get transplanted, get a toupee? The His Hair Clinic treatment gives you that viable option of, I'm going to shave my head, I'm going to get this treatment, and it's going to look like I could have a full head of hair, but I decided to shave, which is very different than balding. So I'm a big proponent of the treatment, and obviously I'm a huge fan of HeadBlade. So happy to partnership with His Hair Clinic, and look forward to a lot of smiley, happy, shiny, good-looking shaved heads. Thank you.